The worst part about being alone at a wedding was not the pitying glances from married couples or the awkward small talk with distant relatives, but the moment when the bride threw her bouquet and everyone assumed you would be desperately lunging for it. Katherine Bailey stood near the back of the crowd, champagne flute in hand, watching her best friend Sarah prepare to toss the flowers into a sea of eager hands. She had no intention of participating in this particular ritual, content to observe from a safe distance where she could appreciate the joy of the day without becoming part of the spectacle. The ceremony had been beautiful, held in a renovated barn on the outskirts of Portland with string lights creating a canopy of stars overhead. Sarah looked radiant in her lace gown, and her groom Michael could not stop smiling. Katherine felt genuine happiness for them, even as a small part of her wondered if she would ever find that kind of connection. At 32, she had built an impressive career as an architect, designing sustainable housing projects that had earned her recognition in industry publications. Her life was full and meaningful, but lately the empty apartment she returned to each night felt more hollow than peaceful. She was contemplating whether to slip away early when someone stepped beside her, close enough that she caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something woodsy and clean. Not going to fight for the bouquet, Katherine turned and nearly dropped her champagne. She knew that voice, would have recognized it anywhere despite not having heard it in over a decade. Ryan Lawson stood next to her, hands in the pockets of his perfectly tailored charcoal suit, looking at her with those same gray-blue eyes that had once made her heart race during late-night study sessions in college. "Ryan." Her voice came out more breathless than she intended. "I had no idea you would be here. Michael and I were roommates junior year," he said, and she could see the recognition dawning in his expression as he really looked at her. Katherine Bailey, my God, it has been what, 12 years? 13, she corrected automatically, then felt foolish for keeping track. "I lost touch with most people after graduation. Life got busy." That was an understatement. Their final semester had ended abruptly for Katherine when her father suffered a severe stroke, forcing her to leave school 3 weeks before finals to help her mother manage the family situation. She had finished her degree remotely, missing all the graduation festivities and goodbye gatherings. By the time things stabilized at home, everyone had scattered across the country pursuing their dreams, and Katherine had been too overwhelmed to maintain the friendships that had once seemed unbreakable. "You look incredible," Ryan said, and there was something in his tone that made warmth spread through her chest. "Though you always did." Katherine laughed, a genuine sound that surprised her. "You were never this smooth in college." "I remember you once tried to impress a girl by reciting the periodic table. That was one time, and in my defense, she was a chemistry major." His grin was the same one she remembered, slightly crooked and entirely too charming. "Besides, it worked. We dated for 3 months." "Did you bore her to death with transition metals?" "She actually dumped me for a guy in her organic chemistry lab. Apparently he had better molecular models." They fell into easy laughter, and Katherine felt 13 years dissolve in an instant. This had always been the thing about Ryan that had drawn her to him in college. Despite his intelligence and ambition, he never took himself too seriously. He could discuss architectural theory with her for hours, then turn around and make ridiculous jokes about load-bearing walls that somehow remained funny. "So what have you been doing with yourself?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Last I heard you were heading to business school." "I did. Got my MBA, spent a few years working in corporate finance, hated every minute of it." He took a sip of his own drink, something amber in a rocks glass. 5 years ago I started my own company, We develop and manufacture eco-friendly building materials. Recycled composites, sustainable insulation, that sort of thing. Katherine felt her professional interest spark immediately. That is exactly what the industry needs. I am an architect now, and finding truly sustainable materials that meet building codes and budget requirements is always a challenge. You are an architect. His face lit up with what looked like genuine delight. That is perfect. You were always sketching buildings in the margins of your notebooks. I am glad you stuck with it. You remember that. I remember a lot of things about you, Kate. The way he said her old nickname, the one only close friends had used, made something flutter in her stomach that she had not felt in years. This was dangerous territory. She had spent their entire junior year harboring a crush on Ryan Lawson, watching him date other girls while they remained firmly in the friend zone. She had never confessed her feelings, too afraid of ruining their friendship, and then life had pulled them apart before she could find the courage. The crowd erupted in cheers as Sarah tossed the bouquet. A tall redhead caught it triumphantly, holding it overhead like a trophy while her boyfriend looked simultaneously proud and terrified. "Dodge that bullet," Ryan observed. "I prefer to think of it as strategic positioning," Katherine replied. "What about you? I am surprised you were not over there trying to catch the garter." "Already did my time in the splash zone. Michael launched that thing directly at my head during the garter toss. I barely ducked in time." He gestured toward the bar. "Want to get another drink? I would love to hear more about your architectural work. And honestly, it would be nice to catch up with someone who knew me before I became the guy who talks about thermal conductivity at parties." Katherine knew she should probably mingle with other guests, make polite conversation with Sarah's relatives, fulfill her duties as a member of the wedding party. But the prospect of spending more time with Ryan was far more appealing than anything else the evening had to offer. "Lead the way," she said. They found a quieter corner near the barn's original wooden beams, away from the dance floor where guests were attempting an enthusiastic but uncoordinated line dance. Ryan ordered them both whiskey neat, which Katherine appreciated. She was tired of sweet cocktails that masked the actual alcohol content. "So tell me about your firm," Ryan said once they had settled into a worn leather sofa that someone had artfully arranged in the venue's lounge area. "Are you with one of the big Portland companies?" "I wish. I am still freelancing, taking whatever projects I can get. Mostly residential work, some small commercial jobs. It is hard to break into the bigger developments without serious capital and connections." She heard the frustration in her own voice and tried to soften it. "But I love the work itself." Every project is a puzzle, trying to balance aesthetics with functionality and sustainability. There is nothing quite like seeing a design transform from concept to reality. "I can imagine." We are always looking for architects who understand sustainable design, beyond just checking boxes for LEED certification. Most of them want to use our materials, but do not really understand how to integrate them into the overall building system. He leaned forward, engaged in a way that made Katherine feel truly seen. "What is your approach? How do you think about sustainability in your designs?" For the next hour, they talked shop. Katherine found herself describing her design philosophy, the ways she tried to incorporate passive solar heating, natural ventilation, and locally sourced materials into even her smallest projects. Ryan listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions, and occasionally offering insights about material properties she had not considered. He explained how his company had developed a new type of insulation made from recycled denim and cotton that outperformed traditional fiberglass while being safer to install. "We have been trying to break into the residential market," Ryan said, "but most builders stick with what they know. They do not want to risk trying something new, even if it is better for the environment and their clients." "Show me the technical specifications," Katherine said impulsively. "If your materials are as good as you say, I would love to incorporate them into my next project. I have a client who wants to build a sustainable family home in the Pearl District. Small footprint, maximum efficiency." Ryan pulled out his phone, navigating to his company's website. As he showed her product sheets and case studies, Katherine became increasingly impressed. This was not greenwashing or superficial environmentalism. His company had genuinely innovative solutions backed by rigorous testing and third-party certification. "This is incredible work, Ryan. Really, you should be proud." "Thank you." He met her eyes, and she saw something vulnerable there beneath the professional confidence. "It has not been easy. Starting a manufacturing company requires massive upfront capital. I have been fortunate to secure good investors, but there were a few years where I was not sure we would make it." "What changed?" "We landed a contract with a major construction firm in Seattle. They were developing a mixed-use building that needed to meet aggressive sustainability targets. Our materials helped them exceed their goals, and the project won several green building awards. After that, things snowballed. Now we are expanding production, hiring more staff, fielding calls from developers across the Pacific Northwest." "That is amazing. You built something real, something that matters." Ryan looked at her thoughtfully. "You sound surprised." "No, not surprised. Just impressed. A lot of people talk about wanting to make a difference, but you actually did it." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "In college, you always talked about wanting to do something meaningful with your career. I am glad you followed through." "I almost did not. After business school, I took a job at an investment bank. The money was great, but I was miserable. 80-hour weeks analyzing merger deals for companies I did not care about. I kept thinking there had to be more to life than optimizing shareholder returns." He swirled his whiskey, watching the amber liquid catch the light. "My father thought I was crazy when I quit to start Evergreen Materials. He wanted me to stay on the traditional path, make partner, retire wealthy at 65. But you chose differently." "I chose to actually enjoy my life while I am living it. Money matters, but it is not everything." Katherine felt a pang of recognition. Her own parents had been supportive of her career, but they worried constantly about her financial stability as a freelancer. Her mother frequently forwarded job listings for positions at established firms, hinting that maybe it was time to prioritize security over creative independence. "I understand that completely," she said. "People treat passion and practicality like they are mutually exclusive, but they do not have to be." "Exactly." Ryan leaned back against the sofa, his shoulder brushing against hers. Neither of them moved away. "So why freelancing? You are clearly talented. You could land a position at any major firm." "Freedom, mostly. I get to choose my projects, work with clients I believe in, design buildings that reflect my values." She hesitated, then decided to be honest. "And maybe a bit of fear. If I join a big firm, I will be one architect among dozens, implementing someone else's vision. This way, every project is mine. The successes and failures both belong to me. That takes courage, or stubbornness. My mother would say it is definitely stubbornness." Ryan laughed, and the sound made Katherine smile despite herself. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the wedding celebration continue around them. The DJ had switched to slower songs, and couples swayed together on the dance floor. Sarah and Michael were in the center, completely absorbed in each other, moving to music only they could hear. "They look happy," Katherine observed. "They are good together. Michael is one of the most genuine people I know. He deserves someone like Sarah. She is wonderful. We have been friends since college, actually. She was in my environmental design class sophomore year. We bonded over our shared hatred of brutalist architecture. You always did have strong opinions about brutalism. Katherine turned to look at Ryan fully, surprised. You remember that? Kate, I remember most of our conversations. You were one of the few people I could actually talk to about things that mattered. His voice softened. When you disappeared senior spring, I tried to find you. Called your cell about 20 times, sent emails, even asked around at your dorm. No one knew where you went. Guilt washed over her. In the chaos of her father's stroke and subsequent rehabilitation, she had essentially vanished from campus. Her phone had been turned off to conserve battery during long hospital days, and checking email had seemed impossibly trivial compared to helping her father relearn how to speak and move his left arm. My dad had a stroke, she said quietly. It was severe. We did not know if he would survive, and then we did not know if he would recover. I had to go home, help my mom, be there for him. Everything else just fell away. Ryan's expression shifted to concern. God, Kate, I had no idea. I am so sorry. Is he okay now? Mostly. He made a good recovery, all things considered. There is some lingering weakness on his left side, but he is independent, active. He and my mom retired to a small town on the Oregon coast. They seem happy. And you never came back to campus. I finished my degree remotely. By the time I had bandwidth to think about anything beyond my family, graduation was over and everyone had moved on. I told myself it was easier to just start fresh. Easier for who? The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Katherine realized that disappearing had been easier for her, allowing her to avoid complicated goodbyes and the vulnerable admission of how much certain friendships had meant. But it had not been fair to the people she left behind without explanation. I am sorry, she said. I should have reached out, let people know what was happening. Let you know. That was not right. You were dealing with a family crisis. No one would blame you for prioritizing that. Maybe, but I could have sent one email, made one phone call. I just was not sure anyone would care that much. Ryan set down his glass and turned to face her directly. I would have cared. I did care. You were important to me, Kate. The way he said it, the intensity in his eyes, made Katherine's breath catch. This felt like the edge of something significant, a conversation they should have had 13 years ago but somehow never managed. Before she could formulate a response, Sarah appeared in a swirl of white lace, slightly breathless from dancing. There you are. I have been looking everywhere for you. She grabbed Katherine's hand. We are doing the cake cutting in 5 minutes and I need my maid of honor for photos. Also, hello Ryan, so glad you could make it. Would not miss it, Ryan said, standing politely. Congratulations, Sarah, you look beautiful. Thank you. And I see you two have found each other. Excellent. Katherine, did you know Ryan was going to be here? No idea, Katherine admitted. Well, consider it a wedding gift. You two were always so good together in college. Michael and I used to think you would end up dating. Katherine felt heat rise in her cheeks. Sarah, we were just friends. Sure. Sarah's knowing smile suggested she was not convinced. Anyway, come on. The photographer is waiting and my feet are killing me in these heels. Katherine allowed herself to be pulled away, glancing back at Ryan. He raised his glass in a small salute, and she saw something promising in his expression that made her heart beat faster. The cake cutting went smoothly, followed by toasts and more dancing. Katherine fulfilled her maid of honor duties, making sure Sarah stayed hydrated and arranging her train for photos. But throughout it all, she remained acutely aware of Ryan's presence. She caught him watching her several times, and each time their eyes met, she felt that same electric connection they had shared years ago. It was nearly midnight when she finally extracted herself from wedding obligations. Most guests had departed, leaving only close friends and family to help with the informal cleanup. Katherine was gathering abandoned champagne flutes when Ryan appeared at her elbow. "Need help?" "Sure. Grab those glasses on that table." They worked together in comfortable silence, clearing tables and stacking chairs. It felt natural, easy, like no time had passed at all. "So," Ryan said eventually, "I know this might be forward, but I would really like to see you again. Not just to talk about building materials, though I would be happy to continue that conversation too." Katherine felt her pulse quicken. "What did you have in mind? Dinner? Coffee?" "A complete tour of my manufacturing facility followed by detailed technical presentations," she laughed. "How about we start with dinner and see where things go from there? Tomorrow night." "That is fast. I have already wasted 13 years not staying in touch with you. I do not want to waste any more time." The honesty in his voice made Katherine's chest tight. This was what she had wanted in college but never had the courage to pursue. Now here was Ryan, successful and confident, and standing in front of her with clear intentions. She would be an idiot to let this opportunity slip away again. Tomorrow night sounds perfect. Ryan's smile could have lit the entire barn. "Give me your number and I will text you details." They exchanged phones, entering contact information with the slightly awkward choreography of adults trying to navigate modern dating rituals. When Katherine handed his phone back, their fingers brushed and she felt that spark again, stronger this time. "I am really glad Michael and Sarah got married," Ryan said softly. "Me too." They stood there for a moment, neither quite ready to say goodbye. Around them, the barn was emptying out as the last guests trickled away. Sarah and Michael had already left for their hotel, off to start their honeymoon in Hawaii the next morning. "I should go," Katherine said reluctantly. "I have a client meeting in the morning. And I have a production review at 8. But Ryan did not move. "Kate?" "Yeah. I am really glad I found you again." "Me too," she said, and meant it completely. She drove home through empty Portland streets, her mind replaying the evening in vivid detail. The surprise of seeing Ryan after so many years, the easy rapport that had sprung up instantly between them, the way his eyes had lingered on her face when he thought she was not looking. She felt like a teenager again, giddy and nervous and full of possibility. Her apartment was dark when she arrived, but it felt less lonely than usual. She got ready for bed mechanically, going through her nighttime routine while her thoughts spun ahead to tomorrow. What should she wear? Where would they go? Should she be nervous? Her phone buzzed just as she was climbing into bed. A text from an unfamiliar number appeared on her screen. "Just making sure you gave me your real number and not the rejection hotline. This is Ryan, by the way. Sleep well, Kate," she smiled and typed back. "Definitely real. Though I admit I was tempted to give you the number for a pizza place just to see what would happen. That would have been cruel. I am already hungry thinking about tomorrow's dinner. Where are we going? You will see. Wear something nice but not fancy, comfortable shoes, mysterious." "I like it. Good night, Kate." "Good night, Ryan." Katherine set her phone on the nightstand and lay back against her pillows, staring at the ceiling. She knew she was probably getting ahead of herself, building up expectations that might not match reality. Ryan could turn out to be completely different from the person she remembered. 13 years changed people in fundamental ways. But somehow, talking with him tonight had felt exactly right, like finding a piece of herself she had forgotten was missing. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, dreaming of string lights and whiskey and gray-blue eyes that saw right through her. The next morning, Katherine woke early and spent far too long deciding what to wear. Ryan had said nice, but not fancy, comfortable shoes. That eliminated her favorite heels, but still left too many options. She finally settled on dark jeans, a soft green blouse that brought out the hazel in her eyes, and ankle boots that were both stylish and practical. Her client meeting went well. A young couple looking to build their first home. They were enthusiastic about sustainable design and had a reasonable budget to work with. Katherine walked them through preliminary concepts, showing how strategic window placement and proper insulation could dramatically reduce their heating and cooling costs. They loved everything, signing her contract without hesitation. She was riding that professional high when Ryan texted around 3. "Picking you up at 7. Send me your address." Katherine sent her location, then spent the rest of the afternoon trying to focus on work and failing miserably. She redesigned the same kitchen 3 times before admitting she was too distracted to be productive. Instead, she went for a run along the Willamette River, hoping physical activity would calm her nerves. It helped marginally. At 6:30, she was showered, dressed, and pacing her living room like a caged animal. This was ridiculous. She was a grown woman with a successful career. There was no reason to be this nervous about a dinner date, except it was not just any dinner date. It was Ryan. And somehow that made all the difference. He arrived exactly at 7, buzzing her apartment from the street. Katherine grabbed her leather jacket and headed down, taking the stairs instead of the elevator to burn off excess energy. Ryan was waiting on the sidewalk, leaning against a sleek black Tesla with the casual confidence of someone completely comfortable in his own skin. He wore dark jeans and a navy button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. His hair was slightly wind-tousled, and Katherine thought he looked even better than he had at the wedding. "You look beautiful," he said when he saw her. "You clean up pretty well yourself." She gestured to the car. "This is nice. Company car. We try to practice what we preach about sustainability." He opened the passenger door for her, a gesture that might have seemed old-fashioned but somehow felt right coming from him. They drove through downtown Portland as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Katherine watched the city slide past her window, comfortable with the silence between them. Some people felt the need to fill every quiet moment with chatter, but Ryan never had. It was one of the things she had always appreciated about him. "So where are we going?" she asked eventually. "A place called Canard. Have you been?" "No, but I have heard good things. Do not they specialize in breakfast for dinner, among other things? I figured it was a safe bet. Everyone likes breakfast food." Solid logic. The restaurant was intimate and warm, with exposed brick walls and soft lighting that made everything glow. They were seated at a small table near the window, close enough that Katherine could have reached across and touched Ryan's hand if she wanted to. Which she did want to, she realized. Very much. They ordered wine and started with the house pâté, which arrived with thick slices of toasted bread and cornichons. Katherine had not realized how hungry she was until she took the first bite. "This is amazing," she said. "Everything here is good. I have been coming here since they opened 3 years ago. Do you live nearby? Pearl District. Condo on the 10th floor. Great views, but probably terrible for my carbon footprint. You walk to work though, right? That compensates." "My manufacturing facility is actually in Northwest Industrial, so I usually bike. But I spend a lot of time at our corporate office downtown, which is walking distance." He paused, taking a sip of wine. "What about you? Where do you live?" "Selwood. Little house I bought 5 years ago. It needed a lot of work, but that was half the appeal. I have been slowly renovating it. designing and building your own space. That must be satisfying. It is. Although I will admit there have been moments where I questioned every decision. Like when I decided to remove a wall myself and discovered it was holding up more than I thought. Ryan's eyes widened. Please tell me you consulted a structural engineer. Eventually, after a minor panic attack and several frantic phone calls, she grinned at his expression. Everything turned out fine. The wall was not load-bearing after all, but it taught me to stick to design and leave the demolition to professionals. Their entrees arrived. Ryan had ordered the duck confit hash, and Katherine had chosen the mushroom omelet with herbs from the restaurant's garden. They shared bites across the table, and Katherine tried not to think about how intimate it felt to eat from Ryan's fork. "Tell me about your company," she said. "How did you go from business school to manufacturing sustainable building materials?" Ryan set down his fork, considering the question. "It started during my last year at the bank. I was working on a deal for a major residential developer, and part of my analysis involved touring their construction sites. I was shocked by how much waste there was. Tons of material just thrown into dumpsters, headed for landfills. Perfectly good wood metal insulation. It seemed insane. It is insane. Construction waste is a massive environmental problem." "Right. So I started researching alternatives. What if we could create building materials from recycled content? What if we could design products that were not only sustainable but actually performed better than traditional options?" He leaned forward, animated by the topic. "I wrote up a business plan, mostly as a thought experiment. But the more I worked on it, the more convinced I became that it could actually work. What made you take the leap?" "My grandfather died, left me a decent inheritance. Not enough to fund the whole operation, but enough to get started. I took it as a sign." Ryan's expression turned thoughtful. He was a carpenter, built furniture by hand his entire life. He always talked about the importance of quality materials, taking pride in your work. I like to think he would have approved of what I am building. Katherine felt her chest tighten with emotion. There was something deeply appealing about Ryan's sincerity, the way he connected his business to personal values and family legacy. "I think that is beautiful," she said softly. "It has not been easy. Manufacturing is capital intensive, and convincing investors to fund an unproven company making unfamiliar products was nearly impossible. I maxed out credit cards, took on personal debt, worked 100-hour weeks for the first 2 years." He met her eyes. "But we are profitable now, growing, making a real impact, so it was worth it." "How big is your company?" 75 employees at the manufacturing facility, another 20 at the corporate office. Annual revenue around 40 million, though most of that gets reinvested in growth and R&D. He said it casually, but Katherine recognized the significance. Ryan was not just successful. He was wealthy, potentially very wealthy if the company continued on its current trajectory. "That is impressive," she said. "You built something real." "I had help. Great partners, talented employees, investors who believed in the vision." He paused. "But yeah, I am proud of what we have accomplished." They talked through dinner, then dessert, then coffee. The restaurant began to empty around them, but neither seemed to notice. Katherine found herself telling Ryan about her architectural projects, her hopes for the future, the frustrations of trying to convince clients that sustainable design was worth the upfront investment. He listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions and offering insights from his own experience. It was after 10 when they finally left the restaurant, stepping out into the cool Portland night. Katherine was not ready for the evening to end. "Want to walk for a bit?" Ryan suggested, as if reading her mind. "I would like that." They strolled through the Pearl District, past converted warehouses now housing galleries and boutiques. The streets were relatively quiet on a Sunday night, giving them space to walk side by side without dodging crowds. "Can I ask you something?" Ryan said after a while. "Of course. What happened between us in college? I always felt like there was something there, but I could never quite figure out if I was imagining it." Katherine's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the conversation she had been both hoping for and dreading. Honesty felt terrifying and necessary in equal measure. "You were not imagining it," she said quietly. "At least not from my side. I had feelings for you junior year, pretty significant feelings." Ryan stopped walking, turning to face her. "Then why did you never say anything?" "Because you were dating other people. Because I was scared of ruining our friendship. Because I was 21 and did not know how to be brave about things that mattered." She met his eyes, refusing to look away despite her vulnerability. "And then my dad got sick and I disappeared, and by the time I came up for air, it felt too late." "Kate." Ryan reached out and took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "It was never too late. If I had known, if you had said something." "What would you have done?" "Honestly, I do not know. I was pretty oblivious back then, but I do know that I thought about you after you left, wondered where you were, if you were okay. Compared every woman I dated to you and found them lacking." Katherine felt tears prick her eyes. "Really, really. You set an impossible standard, smart, talented, funny, beautiful. Plus you laughed at my terrible jokes, which is apparently my primary criteria for compatibility." She laughed, a wet sound halfway to crying. "They were terrible jokes." "The worst. But you always laughed anyway." Ryan's hand tightened around hers. "I am not going to waste this second chance, Kate. I like you. I liked you 13 years ago and I like you now, and I want to see where this goes, if you are interested." "I am definitely interested," she managed. "Good. Because I was really hoping you would say that." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. Katherine did not want to pull away. She tilted her face up and met him halfway, and when their lips touched, she felt something click into place like a key turning in a lock. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, two people learning each other after years apart. But it deepened quickly, 13 years of unspoken feelings pouring into the connection between them. Ryan's hand came up to cup her face, his touch reverent, and Katherine wound her arms around his neck, pressing closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that since junior year," he admitted. "Me too." They stood there for a moment, wrapped up in each other while the city moved around them. Katherine felt light-headed, dizzy with happiness and the sheer improbability of this moment. Yesterday she had been alone at a wedding, resigned to another evening of polite small talk and early departure. Now she was in Ryan's arms, finally admitting feelings she had buried for over a decade. "I should probably take you home," Ryan said reluctantly. "As much as I want to keep standing here kissing you on the street. Probably wise. I have an early meeting tomorrow." They walked back to his car hand in hand, neither willing to break physical contact. The drive to Selwood passed too quickly, filled with easy conversation and the occasional comfortable silence. When Ryan pulled up in front of Katherine's house, he put the car in park but made no move to leave. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Soon. How about Wednesday? I should have my initial sketches done for that Pearl District project by then. I could show them to you, get your feedback on material selection. Mixing business with pleasure, I like it." Ryan grinned. "My office. I can give you that facility tour I promised." "Sounds perfect." He walked her to her door, and Katherine was suddenly aware of how enormous this moment felt. The end of a first date, standing on her porch under the soft glow of her outdoor light. She wanted to invite him in, but also wanted to take things slow, savor each step of whatever was developing between them. Ryan solved the dilemma by giving her another kiss, this one slower and deeper than the first. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with wanting. "Wednesday," he said, his voice rough. "Wednesday," Katherine confirmed. She watched him walk back to his car, waiting until he drove away before going inside. Her house felt different somehow, charged with new energy. She touched her lips, still feeling the ghost of Ryan's kiss, and allowed herself a moment of pure joy. This was happening. They were really doing this. Katherine spent the next 2 days working with single-minded focus, driven by both professional dedication and the knowledge that she would be seeing Ryan again soon. She finalized the initial concepts for her Pearl District clients, incorporating passive solar design and planning spaces for the sustainable materials Ryan had told her about. The design was some of her best work, clean and functional while maintaining warmth and character. Wednesday morning arrived bright and clear. Katherine dressed carefully in professional clothes that still felt like herself, then drove to the address Ryan had sent her. His corporate office was in a renovated building downtown, all exposed brick and large windows that flooded the space with natural light. The company logo, a stylized evergreen tree made of geometric shapes, dominated the lobby wall. The receptionist, a friendly woman in her 50s, smiled when Katherine introduced herself. "You must be Katherine Bailey. Ryan asked me to send you right up when you arrived. 10th floor, corner office." Katherine took the elevator up, her portfolio case clutched in one hand. She was nervous, but it was the good kind of nervousness, anticipation rather than dread. Ryan's office door was open. He was standing at a large drafting table, reviewing what looked like technical drawings, but he looked up immediately when she appeared in the doorway. His face lit up in a way that made her stomach flip. "Kate, come in." He crossed the room quickly, greeting her with a kiss that was probably inappropriate for a professional setting but felt exactly right. "I have been looking forward to this since Monday." "Me too." She set down her portfolio and looked around his office. It was spacious but not ostentatious, decorated with product samples and architectural drawings rather than the typical corporate art. One wall was entirely glass, offering a sweeping view of downtown Portland and the mountains beyond. "This is a great space. Thanks. I spend too much time here, so I tried to make it somewhere I would actually want to be." He gestured to a comfortable seating area near the windows. "Want to show me what you have been working on?" They settled on the leather couch and Katherine spread out her drawings, walking Ryan through her design concepts. He listened intently, occasionally leaning in close to examine details. When she finished, he sat back with an impressed expression. "This is really excellent work, Kate. The way you have integrated passive climate control with the existing urban context is brilliant, and these material specifications." He pulled out his phone, making notes. "We make products that would be perfect for at least 6 different applications here. I can have my team put together a complete package with samples and pricing." "That would be amazing. My clients are excited about sustainability, but they also need to stay within budget. If your materials can deliver both, it is a win for everyone. Let me show you the manufacturing facility. You will get a better sense of what we can do." They drove to Northwest Industrial in Ryan's Tesla, continuing to discuss the project. Katherine appreciated how seriously he took her work, offering suggestions without being condescending or dismissive. Many men in her industry assumed they knew better by default, but Ryan treated her as an equal, respecting her expertise. The manufacturing facility was impressive, a sprawling complex of warehouses and production lines. Ryan gave her a comprehensive tour, introducing her to supervisors and showing her the complete process of how recycled materials were transformed into high-performance building products. Katherine found herself genuinely fascinated, taking notes and asking technical questions. "This is incredible," she said as they watched a production line creating insulation bats from recycled denim. "The quality control, the efficiency, the scale. You have really built something special here. We have a great team. I could not do any of this without them." Ryan waved to a supervisor who gave him a thumbs up. "Want to see the R&D lab? That is where we develop new products." The research and development lab was a huge open space filled with testing equipment and prototype materials. A team of engineers and scientists worked at various stations, running experiments and analyzing data. Ryan clearly knew everyone by name, stopping to chat and check on projects with genuine interest. Katherine watched him interact with his employees and felt her attraction deepen into something more significant. This was not just a successful businessman. This was someone who cared about his work, who had created a company culture based on innovation and respect. The way his team responded to him, with warmth and enthusiasm rather than fear or obligation, spoke volumes about his leadership. "You are really good at this," she said when they were alone again. "At what? Running a company, leading people. You make it look easy, but I know it is not." Ryan considered that. "I try to treat people the way I would want to be treated. Pay fair wages, listen to ideas, give credit where it is due. Revolutionary concepts in corporate America, apparently." His tone was wry. "But honestly, I just hire smart people and try not to get in their way too much." They grabbed lunch at a food cart near the facility, eating Korean tacos while sitting on a wooden bench in the sunshine. It was casual and perfect, the kind of easy afternoon that felt both ordinary and extraordinary. "So," Ryan said, wiping hot sauce from his mouth, "I have a question for you." "Shoot. Would you want to have dinner at my place Friday night? I will cook. Nothing fancy, but I make a decent pasta and I have that view I mentioned." Katherine felt her heart rate pick up. Dinner at his place was a clear escalation, moving from public dates to intimate private time. But she wanted to see where Ryan lived, wanted to be alone with him without the buffer of restaurants and public spaces. "I would love that," she said. Yeah, but I should warn you, I am very judgmental about people's book collections." "Good thing I have excellent taste in literature then. We will see about that." They spent the rest of the afternoon together, reluctant to separate. Ryan showed Katherine some projects his company was bidding on, asking for her architectural perspective. She found herself offering suggestions, thinking through design challenges in real time. It felt natural to collaborate with him, their different expertise complementing each other perfectly. When she finally had to leave for an evening client meeting, Ryan walked her to her car. "Friday," he said. 7 o'clock, I will text you my address. I will be there." She reached up and kissed him, no longer caring that they were in a semi-public parking lot. "This has been a really good day." "The best," Ryan agreed. Katherine drove to her meeting feeling lighter than she had in months, maybe years. Something was shifting in her life, pieces rearranging themselves into a new configuration that felt right. She had been alone for so long, focused on building her career and maintaining her independence. The thought of letting someone in, of becoming vulnerable to another person, had seemed too risky. But Ryan did not feel risky. He felt like coming home. Friday arrived with typical Pacific Northwest weather, gray skies threatening rain. Katherine spent the morning working, then the afternoon agonizing over what to wear. She finally settled on a soft burgundy sweater dress that hit just above her knees, paired with tights and her favorite boots. casual enough for a home dinner, but still put together. Ryan's building was modern glass and steel, with a doorman who greeted her politely and directed her to the elevators. The 10th floor hallway was quiet, carpeted in neutral tones. Ryan's door was at the end, and he opened it before she could knock. "I heard the elevator," he explained, then seemed to lose his train of thought as he looked at her. "Wow, you look incredible. Thank you, you do too." He was wearing jeans and a soft gray Henley that hugged his frame in distracting ways. His condo was exactly what she had expected. Open floor plan, minimalist furniture in warm wood tones, and windows that offered panoramic views of the city and Mount Hood in the distance. Bookshelves lined one wall, packed with an eclectic mix of business books, literary fiction, and what looked like an extensive collection of science fiction. "I approve of the book collection," Katherine said, examining the shelves. "Though I am judging you slightly for having all 350 Shades books." Ryan appeared at her shoulder, handing her a glass of red wine. "Those were a gift from my sister. She thought it was hilarious." "Did you read them?" "I may have skimmed them out of curiosity. Terrible writing, but I understand the appeal." Katherine laughed and accepted the wine. The condo smelled amazing, garlic and herbs and something rich. Her stomach growled appreciatively. "Dinner should be ready in about 20 minutes, Ryan said. "I made carbonara. Hope that is okay." "More than okay. That is one of my favorites." He gave her the full tour, which did not take long since the condo was only about 1,200 square feet. But it was well designed, with a compact kitchen that still felt open and a bedroom that managed to be both masculine and inviting. Katherine tried not to think too much about the large bed visible through the doorway. They settled on his couch with their wine, close enough that their thighs touched. Ryan had put on soft jazz, filling the space with warm sound. "I have to admit something," Ryan said. "I am nervous." "About what? This? You? I really like you, Kate, and I do not want to screw it up." Katherine set down her wine glass and turned to face him fully. "I am nervous too. I have not done this in a while. Dated, I mean. I have been so focused on my career that everything else seemed like a distraction. And now you do not feel like a distraction. You feel important." She reached out and took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "I have thought about you a lot over the years, Ryan. Wondered what might have happened if I had been braver, if I had told you how I felt back in college. Part of me always regretted not taking that chance." "We are taking it now," Ryan said softly. "That has to count for something. It counts for everything." He kissed her then, slow and deep, his hands coming up to frame her face. Katherine melted into it, all the tension and nervousness dissolving into pure want. This was what had been missing from her life, this connection, this feeling of being truly seen and desired. The kiss built in intensity, Ryan's hands sliding into her hair while Katherine gripped his shoulders. She could feel his heart beating fast beneath her palms, matching the rhythm of her own. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. "We should probably eat dinner before it burns," he said, though he made no move to leave the couch. Probably wise. But neither of them moved for another long moment, caught in the magnetic pull between them. Finally, Ryan stood and offered his hand, pulling Katherine up. Dinner was perfect. Ryan had set the small dining table near the windows, complete with candles that flickered in the gathering dusk. The carbonara was rich and creamy, the pasta cooked exactly right. They ate and talked, conversation flowing as easily as it always did between them. "Tell me about your family," Katherine said. "You mentioned a sister. 2 sisters, actually. Emma and Claire." "Emma is older, married with 3 kids in Seattle. Claire is younger, doing her residency in pediatrics in San Francisco." His expression softened. "They are both great. We try to get together for holidays, though it is getting harder as everyone gets busier. Are you close? Very. Growing up, it was just the three of us against the world. Our parents divorced when I was 10, and neither of them was particularly present after that. Dad remarried quickly and started a new family. Mom threw herself into her career, so we kind of raised each other. Katherine heard the old hurt beneath his casual tone. That must have been hard. It was what it was. We survived, and honestly, I think it made us closer. Emma basically became my mother for a few years there, making sure Claire and I did our homework and ate real meals. He took a sip of wine. What about you? Siblings? One brother, James. He is 4 years older, works as a physical therapist in Eugene. We are close, though we do not see each other as much as I would like. He has a wife and a baby girl named Sophie who is absolutely perfect. You are an aunt. That is sweet. The best part of my life, honestly. I drive down to visit whenever I can. Being around Sophie reminds me that there is more to life than work and deadlines. Do you want kids someday? Ryan asked, then immediately looked like he regretted the question. Sorry, that is probably too intense for a third date. Katherine considered deflecting, but she appreciated his honesty. I do, actually. I always thought I would have children by now, but life got in the way. Career, relationships that did not work out, general life chaos. She met his eyes. What about you? Yeah, I want kids. At least 2, though I am flexible on the exact number. I want to do it differently than my parents did, actually be present and engaged. He paused. And I want to make sure I am with the right person, someone who will be a real partner. The weight of that statement hung between them, full of implication. They were talking about the future, about what they wanted from life, and it felt significant that they were having this conversation at all. After dinner, they moved back to the couch with fresh glasses of wine. The city lights had come on below them, creating a glittering landscape of urban life. Katherine curled into Ryan's side, feeling warm and content. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Why did you never date anyone seriously after college? You said you compared everyone to me, but that seems like an exaggeration. Ryan was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her shoulder. It is not an exaggeration. After you left, I dated around, tried to find someone who clicked the way you and I had. But no one ever quite measured up. They were nice, attractive, successful, but something was always missing. He looked down at her, his expression serious. I think part of me was still looking for you. Katherine felt her throat tighten with emotion. I did the same thing. Every relationship I tried to start, I kept thinking about how you would have handled things differently, how conversations with you were always easier. It made it impossible to really commit to anyone else. We wasted a lot of time, Ryan said quietly. Maybe. Or maybe we needed that time to become the people we are now. Would we have worked in college? I was still figuring out who I was, what I wanted. You were focused on getting through school and starting your career. The timing might have been all wrong. And now feels right. Katherine shifted so she could look at him directly. I am not saying this is going to be easy or perfect, but I want to try, Ryan. I want to see where this goes. So do I. He leaned down and kissed her, tender and sweet. I am all in, Kate. Whatever this is, however fast or slow you want to take it, I am here. They spent the rest of the evening tangled together on the couch, talking and kissing and simply enjoying each other's presence. It was after midnight when Katherine reluctantly said she needed to go home, and even then, Ryan tried to convince her to stay. I have spare pajamas, he offered, and that bed you saw is very comfortable. I am sure it is, Katherine said, laughing, but I am not ready for that step yet. When we do that, I want it to be right, special. Ryan nodded, clearly disappointed but respecting her boundary. I understand, But for the record, I am already counting down until I get to see you again. Tomorrow, Katherine suggested. I know a great hiking trail in the gorge. If you are not too out of shape to keep up. Challenge accepted. Though I should warn you, I bike 20 miles a week. I am in excellent shape. We will see about that. He walked her down to her car, kissing her thoroughly before letting her leave. Katherine drove home through the empty streets, her mind full of Ryan and possibility. This was really happening. They were building something real, something that felt solid and true. Over the following weeks, Katherine and Ryan fell into an easy rhythm. They saw each other constantly, squeezing in coffee dates before work and dinners after. Ryan came to her house in Selwood, bringing takeout and helping her with renovation projects. Katherine visited his condo, cooking meals while he worked on his laptop at the dining table. They hiked in the Columbia River Gorge, explored Portland's food cart scene, spent lazy Sunday mornings reading the newspaper while drinking excessive amounts of coffee. It felt natural, like they had been doing this for years rather than weeks. Katherine found herself making space in her life for Ryan without resentment or sacrifice. He integrated into her routine seamlessly, becoming someone she wanted to share her days with rather than an obligation or distraction. 6 weeks after the wedding, Ryan's company landed a major contract with a development firm in Vancouver, Washington. It was exactly the kind of breakthrough they had been working toward, a 5-year agreement worth millions of dollars. Ryan called Katherine immediately after signing the deal, his excitement palpable even through the phone. "This is huge," he said. "We are going to have to expand production, probably hire another 30 people. The growth trajectory is beyond anything I projected." "That is incredible. I am so proud of you." Katherine was at a construction site, reviewing framing with a contractor, but she stepped away to give Ryan her full attention. "We should celebrate. Dinner tonight. Actually, I have a better idea. Remember how I mentioned my sisters are coming to visit?" "Yeah, this weekend, right? They want to meet you." Katherine felt her stomach drop. Meeting the family was a big step. The kind of thing that signified a relationship had moved from casual to serious. But she and Ryan were not casual, had not been from the moment they reconnected. And the fact that he wanted her to meet his sisters felt right, like a natural progression. "I would love to meet them," she said, meaning it. "Really. Because Emma has been pestering me about you since I told her we were dating. She remembers you from college, apparently. You were in a study group together freshman year." "Emma Lawson. Oh my God, yes. She helped me pass calculus. I never made the connection." "Well, prepare yourself. She is going to interrogate you thoroughly about your intentions toward her baby brother." "I can handle it. When and where?" They made plans for Saturday brunch at a restaurant in Nob Hill. Katherine spent the rest of the week alternating between excitement and nervousness. She wanted Ryan's sisters to like her, wanted them to see that she was serious about him. But family dynamics were complicated, and she had no idea what they would think of her. Saturday morning arrived sunny and warm, unusual for late October in Portland. Katherine dressed carefully in dark jeans and a cream-colored sweater, aiming for casual but put together. Ryan picked her up, looking slightly nervous himself. "I should warn you," he said as they drove, "my sisters can be intense. They mean well, but they are very protective." "I would be worried if they were not," Katherine replied. "It means they care about you." Emma and Claire were already at the restaurant when they arrived, seated at a table near the windows. Emma was tall like Ryan, with the same gray-blue eyes and an air of competent authority. Claire was smaller, darker-haired, with a quick smile and curious expression. Both of them stood when they saw Katherine, their assessment obvious. "You must be Katherine," Emma said, pulling her into an unexpected hug. It is so good to meet you officially. I cannot believe you are the Kate from college. Ryan talked about you constantly back then. He did not, Ryan protested, but his ears turned slightly red. He absolutely did, Claire confirmed, also hugging Katherine. Kate thinks this. Kate said that Kate would find this funny. It was exhausting. Katherine laughed, feeling some of her nervousness dissolve. Well, for what it is worth, I talked about Ryan constantly too. My roommate threatened to charge me rent for how often I mentioned his name. They settled into their seats and ordered mimosas and coffee. The conversation flowed easily, Emma asking about Katherine's architectural work while Claire peppered her with questions about growing up in Oregon. Ryan sat back and watched, clearly pleased that everyone was getting along. So, Emma said once their food arrived, I have to ask. What are your intentions with our brother? Emma, Ryan groaned. Could you be more embarrassing? I am just looking out for you. Emma's expression was serious despite her playful tone. You have been single for a long time and suddenly you are head over heels for Katherine. I want to make sure she is in this for the right reasons. Katherine appreciated the directness. I understand your concern. Honestly, I am crazy about Ryan. Have been since college, though I was too chicken to admit it back then. Running into him at the wedding felt like a second chance I did not want to waste. She reached over and took Ryan's hand. He is kind, brilliant, funny, and he challenges me to be better. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I want him in it. Emma studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Good answer. Ryan, I like her. Try not to screw this up. Gee, thanks for the vote of confidence, Ryan said dryly. The rest of brunch was delightful. Emma shared stories about Ryan's childhood, embarrassing tales that made him groan but also made Katherine fall a little more in love with him. Claire talked about her residency, the challenges of working 30-hour shifts and the satisfaction of helping children. Katherine felt herself relax completely, enjoying the easy banter and genuine warmth of Ryan's family. After brunch, they walked through Nob Hill, browsing boutiques and bookstores. Emma pulled Katherine aside at one point while Ryan and Claire were examining vintage vinyl records. Thank you, Emma said quietly. For what? For making my brother happy. I have not seen him like this in years. He is lighter, more himself. She squeezed Katherine's arm. He has always been so focused on building his company, proving himself. It is good to see him letting someone in. He makes me happy too, Katherine said honestly. Happier than I have been in a long time. I can tell. The way you look at each other, it is pretty obvious you are both smitten. Emma smiled. I am glad he found you again, or that you found each other, however it works. That evening, after Emma and Claire had returned to their hotel, Ryan took Katherine back to his condo. They curled up on the couch, tired but content. That went well, Katherine said. Your sisters are wonderful. They liked you. Emma texted me while we were driving home. She said, and I quote, marry that woman before someone else does. Katherine's heart skipped. That is a bit premature. Is it? Ryan shifted so he could look at her directly. Kate, I know we have only been dating for 6 weeks, but I also feel like I have known you my whole life. This thing between us, it is not casual for me. It is not temporary. I am falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, huge and terrifying and perfect. Katherine felt tears prick her eyes. I am falling in love with you too, she whispered. I think I have been falling since the moment I saw you at the wedding. Ryan kissed her then, deep and fierce, pouring everything he felt into the connection between them. Katherine kissed him back with equal intensity, all the walls she had built around her heart crumbling completely. Stay tonight, Ryan said when they finally broke apart. Stay with me. Katherine knew what he was asking, the significance of that step, but she was ready, had been ready for weeks if she was honest with herself. She trusted Ryan completely, trusted what they were building together. "Yes," she said simply. He stood and offered his hand, leading her to his bedroom. They undressed each other slowly, reverently, taking time to explore and memorize. When they finally came together, it felt like the most natural thing in the world, two pieces finally fitting into place after years of being apart. Afterward, they lay tangled in Ryan's sheets, comfortable and sated. Katherine rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I love you," Ryan said softly, his fingers trailing patterns on her bare shoulder. "I know I already said it, but I wanted to say it again. I love you, Kate." "I love you too," Katherine replied, and felt the truth of it settle deep in her bones. This was real. This was forever. The next few months passed in a blur of happiness. Katherine's architectural practice continued to grow, fueled partly by projects that incorporated Ryan's sustainable materials. She hired an associate, a recent graduate named Maya who had fresh ideas and boundless energy. Having help allowed Katherine to take on larger projects, including a mixed-use development that would be her biggest commission to date. Ryan's company continued its expansion, opening a second manufacturing facility in Salem. He was busier than ever, traveling frequently to meet with clients and oversee operations. But he always made time for Katherine, calling her every night when he was away and prioritizing their time together when he was home. They fell into a comfortable domestic rhythm. Katherine started keeping clothes at Ryan's condo, and he kept a set of drafting supplies at her house. They cooked dinner together most nights, splitting the work with easy coordination. On weekends, they explored the Pacific Northwest, hiking and camping and discovering small towns tucked into mountain valleys. In December, Katherine brought Ryan home to meet her parents. They drove down to the coast on a foggy Saturday morning, and Katherine found herself more nervous than she had expected. "They are going to love you," Ryan assured her, one hand on her thigh as he drove. "How could they not? My dad can be intense. He is going to grill you about your intentions and your business and probably your credit score. I can handle it. I have excellent intentions, a solid business plan, and an impressive credit score." Her parents' house was a small craftsman bungalow overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Her mother opened the door before they could knock, pulling Katherine into a tight hug. "There you are, and this must be Ryan. Come in, come in. We have been so excited to meet you." Her father was in the living room reading the newspaper. He stood when they entered, and Katherine saw him size up Ryan with a critical eye, but then he smiled and extended his hand. "Thomas Bailey. Good to meet you, Ryan." "Sir, thank you for having me." Ryan's handshake was firm, his posture confident but not arrogant. They spent the afternoon talking, her parents asking Ryan about his company and his family. Her father, true to form, did grill him about business fundamentals and long-term projections. But Ryan handled it with grace, answering honestly and showing genuine respect for Thomas's opinions. At one point, Katherine's mother pulled her aside while the men were discussing manufacturing processes. "He is wonderful," her mother said. "I can see why you fell for him." "You think so?" "Absolutely. The way he looks at you, the way he talks about your work with such pride and respect. That is a man who values you for who you are." Her mother squeezed her hand. "Your father will pretend to be skeptical, but he likes Ryan too. I can tell." That evening, after her parents had gone to bed, Katherine and Ryan walked along the beach. The ocean was rough, waves crashing against the shore with hypnotic rhythm. They held hands, neither saying much, content with the silence. "Your parents are great," Ryan said eventually. "I can see where you get your strength from. Your dad is sharp and your mom is incredibly kind. They liked you. Dad does not laugh that much around new people. Good. Because I plan on being around for a very long time. Katherine stopped walking and turned to face him. The moon was full, casting silver light across the water and illuminating Ryan's face. He looked serious, determined, and completely sure of himself. "Ryan Lawson, are you saying you see a future with me?" "I am saying I cannot imagine a future without you." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I love you, Kate. I want to build a life with you. Whatever that looks like, whatever it takes, I am in." "I am in too," Katherine said, her voice thick with emotion. "Completely." They kissed there on the beach, the ocean roaring around them, and Katherine felt a sense of rightness she had never experienced before. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Not dramatic or chaotic, but steady and sure. A foundation to build on. The holidays passed in a whirlwind of family gatherings and celebrations. Katherine spent Christmas Eve with Ryan and his sisters in Portland, laughing and drinking too much wine while they attempted to bake cookies from their grandmother's recipes. Christmas Day was with her parents, Ryan fitting seamlessly into their traditions as if he had always been part of the family. On New Year's Eve, Ryan surprised her with a weekend trip to a cabin in Mount Hood. They spent the days skiing and the evenings curled up by the fireplace, disconnected from work and the outside world. It was exactly what both of them needed, a chance to simply be together without distractions. At midnight, as fireworks exploded over the mountain, Ryan pulled Katherine close and kissed her with such tenderness that she felt tears on her cheeks. "New year, new adventures," he said softly, "as long as they are with you." In February, Katherine's mixed-use development project broke ground. It was the culmination of months of planning and design, and seeing her vision start to take physical form filled her with profound satisfaction. Ryan attended the groundbreaking ceremony, standing in the background but radiating pride. Afterward, he took her to dinner to celebrate. "You are incredible," he told her over wine and pasta. "The way you handled those developers, explaining your design choices and standing firm on the sustainability requirements, I was in awe." "I learned from the best," Katherine said. "Watching you negotiate with clients and investors taught me a lot about holding my ground. We make a good team, the best." In March, Ryan asked Katherine to move in with him. They were having breakfast at her house in Selwood, sunlight streaming through the windows she had installed during her renovation. Ryan had been quiet all morning, seemingly working up to something. "What is on your mind?" Katherine finally asked. "I want you to move in with me." The words came out in a rush. "I know your house is important to you, and I am not asking you to give it up completely. You could rent it out or keep it as an office space. But I want us to live together, Kate. I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep next to you every night. I want to build a life with you in every possible way." Katherine felt her heart swell. She had been thinking the same thing for weeks but had not wanted to push. Hearing Ryan voice what she had been feeling confirmed that they were truly on the same page. "Yes," she said simply. "Absolutely yes." They spent the next month organizing the move. Katherine did decide to keep her house, converting it into an office for her growing architectural practice. It felt right, maintaining that space while also fully committing to building a life with Ryan. Moving her belongings into his condo felt momentous, a physical manifestation of their deepening commitment. Her first morning waking up in their shared space, Katherine lay in bed watching Ryan sleep. His face was relaxed, peaceful, and she felt overwhelmed with love for this man who had come back into her life at exactly the right moment. He stirred and opened his eyes, smiling when he saw her watching him. "Good morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Good morning. I was just thinking about how lucky I am. That makes two of us." Ryan pulled her closer, kissing her temple. "I have been thinking, too, about us, about the future. Yeah, I want to marry you, Kate. Catherine's breath caught. Is that a proposal? Not yet. I am old-fashioned enough to want to do it properly with a ring and a plan. But I wanted you to know where my head is. I want to spend my life with you. I want to marry you, start a family, grow old together. All of it. I want that too, Katherine said, tears streaming down her face. All of it. Everything? Good. Then I guess I better start planning. True to his word, Ryan began planning. Katherine saw the signs everywhere. The way he casually asked about her ring preferences. The sudden interest in her work schedule for the coming months. The private conversations with her father that ended abruptly when she entered the room. She knew it was coming and found herself equal parts excited and patient, willing to let Ryan orchestrate the proposal in his own way. In May, exactly 1 year after Sarah's wedding, Ryan arranged a dinner at Canard, the restaurant where they had their first date. Katherine dressed carefully, suspecting tonight might be the night. She wore a deep blue dress that Ryan loved and spent extra time on her makeup. Ryan picked her up, looking devastatingly handsome in a dark suit. His nervous energy was palpable, confirming her suspicions. They drove to the restaurant mostly in silence, Ryan's hand gripping hers tightly. The restaurant had reserved their same table by the window. A bottle of champagne was already chilling in a bucket, and Katherine noticed the staff seemed unusually attentive. As they sat down, Ryan was clearly struggling to contain his emotions. "You know why we are here," he said finally. "I have my suspicions. I wanted to bring you back to where it all started, this restaurant, this table. 1 year ago, I brought you here on our first date and knew that night I was going to fall in love with you. Actually, I probably already had fallen in love with you, but I was too stubborn to admit it yet." Katherine laughed through tears that were already forming. "Ryan, let me finish." He reached across the table and took both her hands. "Katherine Bailey, you are the most extraordinary person I have ever known. You are brilliant and talented and kind and funny, and you challenge me every single day to be better. Reconnecting with you at Sarah's wedding was the best thing that has ever happened to me. You make me want to be the man you deserve. And I promise, if you let me, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be exactly that." He stood and came around to her side of the table, dropping to one knee. The entire restaurant had gone silent, everyone watching. Ryan pulled out a small velvet box and opened it, revealing a stunning emerald-cut diamond set in platinum. "Kate, will you marry me?" "Yes," Katherine managed through her tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her while the restaurant erupted in applause. Katherine felt like her heart might burst from happiness. This was everything she had ever wanted. Everything she had not dared to dream was possible. They barely touched their dinner, too absorbed in each other and the magnitude of what had just happened. Ryan told her about asking her father for permission, about shopping for rings with his sisters, about how nervous he had been planning every detail. "I almost proposed a dozen times," he admitted. "At the cabin, at your office, during that hike we took in the gorge. But I wanted it to be perfect, to be memorable. It was perfect. You are perfect." Katherine looked down at her ring, watching it catch the light. "I cannot believe this is my life. Believe it. We have everything ahead of us, Kate. Wedding planning, building a home together, maybe starting a family. I cannot wait for all of it." Word of their engagement spread quickly. Katherine's phone exploded with texts and calls from friends and family. Her mother cried when she called to share the news officially, and her father's gruff congratulations could not hide his genuine happiness. Sarah sent a lengthy message full of excitement and demands to be involved in wedding planning. Ryan's sisters drove up from Seattle and San Francisco that weekend to celebrate. Emma brought champagne and Claire brought a binder full of wedding planning resources, already ready to help organize. "I knew it," Emma said, hugging Katherine tight. "I told Ryan at brunch last year that he needed to lock you down. Glad he finally got with the program." The next several months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Katherine and Ryan agreed on a November wedding, giving them 6 months to pull everything together. They wanted something intimate and meaningful, not an elaborate production. After looking at various venues, they settled on the same barn where Sarah and Michael had gotten married, the place where they had reconnected. "It feels right," Katherine said as they toured the space. Coming back to where everything began, planning the wedding together revealed how well Katherine and Ryan worked as a team. They made decisions easily, rarely disagreeing on major elements. Ryan wanted Katherine to have the wedding of her dreams, and was willing to defer to her preferences on details he did not care about. But he also had opinions on things that mattered to him, like ensuring their wedding was as sustainable and ethical as possible. They chose locally sourced food, seasonal flowers, and wedding favors made from Ryan's recycled building materials that guests could actually use. Their invitations were printed on recycled paper, embedded with wildflower seeds. Every choice reflected their shared values, creating a celebration that felt authentic to who they were as a couple. Katherine's architectural practice continued to thrive. She hired 2 more associates and moved into a proper office space, though she kept her Selwood house for design work that required solitude. The mixed-use development was progressing beautifully, staying on schedule and budget. She was being approached for larger projects, her reputation growing in the sustainable design community. Ryan's company was also flourishing. They had opened a 3rd manufacturing facility and were fielding contracts from across the country. The business had grown beyond Ryan's initial projections, and there was talk of potentially going public in a few years. But he remained focused on the core mission, ensuring growth never compromised their commitment to sustainability. In September, 2 months before their wedding, Katherine discovered she was pregnant. She had been feeling off for a few weeks, tired and slightly nauseous. At first, she attributed it to wedding stress and her demanding work schedule. But when her period was 2 weeks late, she bought a pregnancy test, taking it early one morning while Ryan was at the gym. The 2 pink lines appeared immediately, clear and unmistakable. Katherine sat on the bathroom floor, test in hand, overwhelmed by a cascade of emotions. She and Ryan had talked about children, but they had planned to wait until after the wedding, maybe a year or 2 into their marriage. This was not the timeline they had discussed. But as the initial shock faded, excitement began to build. She was going to have Ryan's baby. They were going to be parents. She was waiting in the living room when Ryan returned from his workout, sweaty and energized. He took one look at her face and immediately crossed to the couch. "What is wrong? Are you okay?" Katherine handed him the pregnancy test without saying anything. She watched his face cycle through confusion, then shock, then understanding. His eyes went wide. "You are pregnant, I am pregnant. We are having a baby." His voice cracked on the last word. "We are having a baby." Ryan pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. When he finally pulled back, there were tears on his face. "This is incredible, amazing, terrifying," he laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "We are going to be parents. Are you okay with this?" "I know we plan to wait." "Okay with it. Kate, I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled. Yes, it is sooner than we discussed, but I cannot think of anything I want more than building a family with you." He placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach. "Our baby is in there." They spent the rest of the morning talking through logistics. Katherine's due date would be in late May, about 7 months away. She would be barely showing at the wedding in November, which felt manageable. They would need to find a pediatrician, prepare a nursery, read approximately 1 million books about parenting. The list felt endless and overwhelming and perfect. Her doctor confirmed the pregnancy a few days later. Everything looked healthy and on track. Katherine cried when she saw the tiny blob on the ultrasound screen that would become their child. "That is our baby," she whispered, gripping Ryan's hand. "That is our baby," he confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. They told their families in person. Katherine's parents cried tears of joy, already discussing nursery furniture and baby names. Ryan's sisters were ecstatic, Emma immediately offering to pass along all of her baby gear and Claire promising to be available for any medical questions. As Katherine's pregnancy progressed, she found herself increasingly emotional and grateful. Every milestone felt momentous. Hearing the heartbeat at 10 weeks, learning they were having a girl at 20 weeks, feeling the first kicks shortly after. Ryan was attentive and involved, attending every appointment and reading more pregnancy books than Katherine did. Their wedding day arrived on a perfect November afternoon, unseasonably warm and bright. Katherine stood in the barn's bridal suite, wearing a simple lace gown that accommodated her small baby bump. Sarah was with her, helping with last-minute preparations. "You look absolutely radiant," Sarah said, adjusting Katherine's veil. "Pregnancy suits you." "I feel like I might throw up from nerves and morning sickness." "You are going to be fine. Ryan is out there looking like he might cry from happiness. This is your day, Kate. Enjoy it." The ceremony was intimate and perfect. 50 people, close friends and family only, gathered to witness Katherine and Ryan exchange vows. Katherine's father walked her down the aisle, squeezing her arm tightly before placing her hand in Ryan's. Ryan looked devastatingly handsome in his charcoal suit, but it was the expression on his face that nearly undid Katherine. Pure love and devotion, clear for everyone to see, they had written their own vows. Ryan spoke first, his voice steady despite the emotion behind his words. "Kate, 13 years ago I met a girl in a college classroom who made me laugh and think and want to be better. I was too young and too stupid to tell her how I felt, and I lost her for over a decade. But fate gave us a second chance, and I promise I will never waste another moment. You are my partner, my best friend, the love of my life. I promise to support your dreams, to be honest and faithful, to make you laugh even when you are angry at me. I promise to be the best father I can be to our daughter and to any other children we are blessed with. I promise to love you fiercely and completely every single day for the rest of my life." Katherine was crying before he finished, and her own vows were delivered through tears. "Ryan, you have always been the one. Even when I tried to pretend otherwise, even during all those years we were apart, some part of me knew I was waiting for you. You see me completely, all my strengths and flaws, and you love me anyway. You challenge me and support me and make me believe I can do anything. I promise to be your partner in every sense of the word, to build a life with you based on mutual respect and deep love. I promise to be a loving mother to our children and to raise them with the values we both cherish. I promise to choose you every single day, no matter what life brings us. You are my home, Ryan. You always have been." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Ryan kissed Katherine like they were the only two people in the world. The barn erupted in cheers and applause, but Katherine was only aware of Ryan, his arms around her, his heart beating against hers. The reception was joyful and relaxed. They ate sustainably sourced food and danced to a carefully curated playlist. Ryan gave a speech thanking everyone for coming and expressing his gratitude for Katherine, his voice breaking multiple times. Katherine's father toasted them with genuine warmth, welcoming Ryan into their family officially. Late in the evening, as the party began to wind down, Katherine and Ryan snuck outside for a moment alone. The same string lights that had hung during Sarah's wedding created a canopy of stars overhead. "Mrs. Lawson," Ryan said, pulling her close. "How does that sound?" "Perfect." "Everything about today has been perfect." Katherine rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "1 year ago, I was alone at a wedding, wondering if I would ever find this kind of happiness. And now look at us. Married, expecting a baby, building a life together. It is more than I ever dreamed possible." "We still have so much ahead of us," Ryan said softly. "Years and years of adventures and challenges and ordinary moments that somehow feel extraordinary because we are together. I cannot wait for all of it." They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, letting the reality of their marriage sink in. This was just the beginning, the foundation they would build everything else on. 5 months later, Katherine gave birth to a healthy baby girl they named Rose Eleanor Lawson. The birth was long and difficult, but Ryan never left her side, holding her hand through every contraction and coaching her breathing. When Rose finally emerged, screaming and perfect, Katherine and Ryan both cried tears of overwhelming joy. "She is beautiful," Ryan whispered, cradling his daughter for the first time. "Look at her, Kate. We made this perfect little person." "She has your eyes," Katherine said, exhausted but elated. "She is going to be trouble, I can already tell." Rose was indeed trouble, but in the best possible way. She was curious and energetic and absolutely adored by everyone who met her. Ryan was a devoted father, taking parental leave from his company to be home during Rose's first months. Katherine watched him change diapers and soothe midnight crying with patient tenderness, falling even more in love with the man she had married. They settled into the chaos of new parenthood with remarkable grace. Yes, they were exhausted. Yes, their carefully organized lives became unpredictable. But they navigated it together, supporting each other through the challenges and celebrating every tiny milestone. Katherine gradually returned to work part-time, building her practice around Rose's schedule. She discovered she could design with a baby sleeping in a carrier against her chest, could conduct client meetings with Rose content in her stroller. It was not always easy, but it was deeply fulfilling. Ryan scaled back his travel, prioritizing time at home with his family. He still ran his company with competence and vision, but he no longer let it consume every waking hour. Rose had shifted his priorities in fundamental ways. 2 years after Rose was born, Katherine found herself pregnant again. They were both thrilled, especially when they learned they were expecting twin boys. Logan and Lucas Lawson arrived 6 weeks early but healthy, keeping Katherine and Ryan busier than they ever imagined possible. Their house, which they had purchased in the suburbs of Portland shortly after Rose was born, was filled with laughter and noise and the beautiful chaos of family life. Katherine had designed the house herself, creating spaces that were both sustainable and functional for a growing family. Large windows brought in natural light, and Ryan's building materials were incorporated throughout. As their children grew, Katherine and Ryan found pockets of time for each other. Date nights were harder to arrange but more precious when they happened. They still hiked when they could convince someone to babysit, still had long conversations about dreams and goals, still made each other laugh until their stomachs hurt. Ryan's company continued to grow, eventually going public in a successful IPO that made both him and Katherine quite wealthy. But they were careful with their resources, establishing a charitable foundation focused on sustainable building practices and educational opportunities for underprivileged students interested in architecture and engineering. Katherine's architectural firm had grown into one of the most respected sustainable design practices in the Pacific Northwest. She had a team of talented architects working with her, taking on projects that ranged from residential homes to large commercial developments. Her work had been featured in national publications, and she was frequently invited to speak at industry conferences. But her greatest pride remained her family. Rose, now 7, was creative and independent, already showing interest in her mother's design work. Logan and Lucas, age 5, were energetic and joyful, keeping everyone on their toes with their constant schemes and adventures. One evening, after the kids were finally asleep, Katherine and Ryan sat on their back deck watching the sunset. Rose had left her colored pencils scattered on the patio table, and toy trucks littered the yard from the twins' earlier play. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. "You ever think about that wedding?" Katherine asked. "The one where we reconnected?" "All the time," Ryan said, pulling her close. "That moment when I saw you standing there, not knowing that my entire life was about to change. Best wedding I ever attended. Even better than our own. Well, that one was pretty good too." He kissed her temple. "I am grateful every single day that Sarah invited both of us. That fate or luck or whatever you want to call it brought us back together." "Me too." Katherine looked out at their backyard, at the evidence of the life they had built together. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had not gone to that wedding. Would we have found each other eventually? Or would we have spent our whole lives wondering about what might have been? I like to think we would have found our way back to each other somehow. Some things are just meant to be." Ryan tightened his arm around her shoulders. "But I am glad we did not have to wait any longer. I am glad we got all these years together, this family, this life." "Forever," Katherine said softly. "That is what we have. Forever." "Forever," Ryan agreed. "Starting from the moment you caught me staring at you at a friend's wedding, not knowing that reunion would change everything." They sat there as darkness fell, comfortable in the silence, secure in the knowledge that whatever came next, they would face it together. Their love story had begun in college, but had truly started at that wedding 1 year later. A chance reunion that had led to everything they had now. 3 children, successful careers, a love that had only deepened with time. Katherine Bailey Lawson had everything she had never dared to dream was possible. And it had all started with reconnecting at a friend's wedding, not knowing that reunion would unite them forever.